All right, everybody, another quick Atlas shopping video for you here. I've been in the industry for about 10 years at this point. A significant portion of that time I spent in the retail space, selling guns like this to folks and walking folks through the process of a custom or a semi-custom pistol. And over that time, one of the things I kind of sympathize with is people being overwhelmed by the options that they have in these, and sort of the paralysis by analysis of not wanting to pick the wrong one. That's certainly how I felt the first couple of guns that I ordered. Like, I didn't know what the right thing for me was, and whenever you asked, all you got was, well, whichever one you want. Well, I don't know what one I want. How do I know? So I'm gonna do a quick video here today, and this is my drop downs. So if you go onto the builder today and you were to spec out a pistol, here's some of the options that I picked and why. So not necessarily that my answers are the right answers, but these are how I made that decision, and you can compare that to how you feel, and maybe this will help you make your choice. So we'll start at the front here. There's not a whole lot to pick. I stick with the stock spring rates that come in these. They do have calibration packs, so if you're really going to chase perfect zero on a specific load, you probably want to get the calibration pack. I shoot the stock spring rate that Atlas puts in the gun. First thing I really come up with is the finishes. There was a time where they offered the chrome, but you have the DLC black, the complete blacked out version, or the two-tone. Well, that's primarily a style choice, right? So that's normally why people decide that, and usually they feel stronger about color than anything else. So I'll say this, aside from that, this particular gun, as of this recording, has about 20,000 rounds on it, and the barrel itself and the hood, it looks pretty new. All the wear you see on this gun is holster wear or dropping it, banging it around type wear. The finish itself on the slide, the black holds up very, very well, specifically on the barrel. So I would say the all blacked out guns look pristine longer than the two-tone guns. I picked a two-tone gun because I kind of like the way that they wear in, and I like sort of the polished look that you get around the hood and the lockup on the barrel. I think as these guns age, the naked stainless just has a little bit better character for me, if you will, but I still like a black gun. The chrome guns don't appeal to me. My first 2011 was a chrome gun. Ultimately, I had its color changed. It got really rusty on one particular occasion. Not a fan of chrome, like ever. So I like the two-tone from what they currently offer. If I could, I would just have the barrel stainless, and I would do black controls, but that's not an option on the drop down. So I do the two-tone. Moving back a little bit, slide lockback. I don't do slide lockback. I've experienced some of the false locks that were traditionally part of the 2011 world, not to the extent that a lot of people did. Main reason I go no lockback is because you get more rounds in the magazine. In the game, it's much more important to have more ammo on board than it is for the slide to lockback. So I go no lockback on that. The trigger, I currently prefer a short trigger. I've tried all of the sizes at one point or another, and I can shoot them all relatively well. My single stack gun has an extra short in it. This is a short. This is a medium. A lot of my guns have mediums in them. A good friend of mine puts the extra large in his, and I can shoot his guns. I don't like that one. Given the choice, I'm either a short or a medium. I'm kind of 50, well, I'm probably more like 60-40, 70-30 towards the short, but either a short or a medium is where I go. I wear large size gloves to give you an idea, but I go medium on the I go short on the trigger currently when I'm speccing out pistols. The last two pistols I've specced out, I specced out with short triggers. On the safeties, I'm left-handed, so I get the left-handed biased safeties, and I go fat on the dominant side, and then I go the non-shielded variety. I've never liked the shielded guns because I feel like they separate me from the gun. To have control of the gun, I want to be as high on it as possible and as close to the center line as possible too. So I have not had issue with choking the gun out with my thumbs. So I've never seen the need for, like, I understand the need for a shielded safety. It's never been a pain point that I wanted to have a safety to keep me from touching the slide, either from getting cut or to impede action of the gun. And I never liked the way they felt. I always felt like they forced me to be further away from the point of control on the gun that I want. So I do the biased ambi safeties. I'm left-handed, so of course I get ambi safeties, and I get the fat one on the side. A reason to not do that, for your consideration, if you are trying to get this into a duty or Safariland specifically style holster, this safety will not fit in an ALS style holster. That thumb shield is too thick, so you'll want the more tactical configuration on these. I can shoot this just fine, but in a competitive environment, I do like the extra control of the wide safety if I'm not trying to use a retention holster. In 3-gun, sometimes we are trying to use retention holsters, so I do have guns set up that way, or you get a different holster. But something to think about if you're trying to go into a tactical bucket, if you will, you're not going to be able to get the super exotic thumb safeties on them. Next going down would be the grip panels. Because you have a choice, not everybody wants to choose. I can shoot just a standard profile gun. I have a lot of these standard grip guns, and I don't feel any less with them than with one of these. But given the choice in the Gen 2 Atlas grips, I choose a full palm swell on both sides. The conventional wisdom is the step grip on your weak side, so that has a place for your fingers to land, and then your grip hand to get some texture on there. That never really worked out in practice for me. That one, it didn't feel as good for me. I have more room for more traction on a full-size palm swell with my offhand, so I have more room to get in there. And also the step grip for my hands in particular, I didn't really feel like it was in the right place, so I had a raised panel, but I wasn't getting much contact with it. So this gives me more room for more contact, but also the way my fingers wrap around here, right along this ledge here, I also get some more grip. And you can see I actually put grip tape on there, so I actually get some more tangible grip putting some grip tape on there. So I get a better purchase and a better grip having a double palm swell on both sides. And don't hear this as a fit thing, like if you're like, oh, well, I have small hands. In my opinion, that all works out the same. You get more surface area of you on there, where if you have bigger hands, you got to build it up a bit more to have contour. I add this more for contour so that I have more area to wrap my hands around than actually making it a different size. It's more about getting a rounder shape for your hands to fit on. So I select double palm swell on both sides. If you're able to get the brass ones, I pick aluminum on the 9mm guns, because I don't like to add a whole lot of weight in the bottom end there. On a major gun, a 40 gun, I go brass if you can get them, if they're still making them. I do brass on the inserts, and then down here in the bottom I do aluminum magazine well. There are mag wells made out of different materials: steel, brass, aluminum. I go aluminum on the bottom because the brass ones tend to make this feel like a dumbbell on the bottom. That's adding weight further from the pivot point of the gun. So I don't like to add weight on the bottom. I don't like to add weight out here. If I'm adding weight, I add weight towards the center. Maybe with the grip panels, depending on the gun. 9mm guns, I don't do that. 40 guns, I do. And then I go aluminum magazine well on the bottom because I don't want the weight. Disadvantage to the aluminum magazine well, though, is when you hit off center. If you actually hit the magazine well and it's going to deflect, I feel like the aluminum ones absorb some of that energy instead of deflecting that energy. So I feel like if you're going to glance a magazine off this and it's going to catch on there, I feel like the aluminum magwells absorb some of that energy and it kind of sticks there a little bit compared to a steel magwell. A steel magwell, I feel like it just shanks it right in there. So something, pros and cons to the aluminum versus the steel. Currently, I choose aluminum. Triggers. Also, you can pick the sub 2 trigger or the average 3 trigger. I pick the average 3. The heavier of the 2 trigger jobs for 2 reasons. Whenever I've had the really light triggers, I tend to bump fire those when firing single-handed. So if I'm doing a single-handed array in a match, I'll tend to get bump fires, which both cost you points in the match because those tend to be Virginia count stages. And also every boomer that thinks they know something about guns tries to explain to you that your gun's broken or dangerous. Like, no, I felt it. It bump fired. So I forego all that, getting the heavier trigger. Also in that time, I also just like a little bit more positive feedback from the trigger of having more spring tension in it. So it's pushing back on my finger a little bit more so that I can be a bit more aware of the trigger's position. I just feel like I have more control of it with a heavier trigger. That came out of, I done a bit of shooting with a CZ, with a Shadow 2. And I don't really like the super light trigger jobs on those Carry Optics guns. I liked a little bit heavier trigger because it gave me a little bit more feedback on my finger as I was feeling the reset, because those triggers have more travel to them. And so I translated that over to 2011 pistols. I feel like I like the 3 to 4 pound triggers more than the sub 2. I don't think the sub 2 gives me anything that makes the juice worth the squeeze. Now that's gonna be hard to talk people into because naturally people are going to want lighter triggers in a competitive environment. I'm here to tell you that I personally have had both. I choose the heavier of the 2. And this particular pistol, this happens to be an Artemis, but any of the Atlas pistols, they all have these options. I would spec them all out the same way. I have a Nemesis. I would pick the same thing on that. If I were buying an Artemis today, or not an Artemis, an Erebus today, I would spec it out the same way. Those are the options that I selected from what's currently available on the drop downs in the Atlas menu. If you have any questions on all this, shoot it down in the comments. I'll try to bop in there and answer your questions specifically, or get at me on Instagram, 3GunAmax on Instagram. Happy to answer any of your questions that you have about these at any time. But that's just some of my thoughts on the options of these to get you off the fence, order your pistol so that you can get out there and start enjoying it. See you on the range.